Hello and welcome to the show. On today's Nurburgring challenge, I've got the Radical SR8 RX. The challenge is to try and get this vehicle around the Nurburgring as quickly as it did in real life, and that target time is a 6 minutes 48, which is a blooming quick time. It is in fact the fastest time ever set by a road car, although the Radical is often forgotten about. When people talk about road cars at Nurburgring, they tend not to really count the Radical. I mean, it is essentially a track car with some indicators stuck on that that set the record, but it is the fastest road car to have got around there. Now, on Forza, I do not have the exact version. It was the SR8 LM that set the record. It's the SR8 RX that I have here. And the RX, I believe, is the racing version, if you like, does not come with road tyres. I can only run this car on, well, slicks or drag tyres. I do not have the option to put on road legal tyres. The game gives it slicks to start with. So I do have a tyre advantage, but not a massive tyre advantage, because, you know, the one that set the record ran on barely road legal race tyres, as a lot of the fastest cars do at Nürburgring. So there's not a humongous advantage, but I certainly do have an advantage with this car. However, it is still going to be a mighty tough challenge to beat that lap time, because the Radical is not the easiest car to drive at all when it comes to this track. For example, this corner here, it was flat out in the Mazda 787B, 180 miles an hour you can take through there. The Radical, it's a brake and a downshift, about 130 miles an hour. The car feels like it can do it, it has excellent turning, but as with a lot of the track cars, the rear end grip lets it down. This next corner, it is flat out. Every part of your brain is screaming at you not to try and take that corner flat out. The Radical can just do it. You are absolutely on the limit if you want to take that corner flat out, because it has more than enough turning to deal with it. It's just, will the back end of the car stick to the road? Despite the humongous wing on this car, the back end just doesn't hold the road. Again, top of the hill is another one that can be flat out. I'm not sure. Sometimes I'd have a little bit of a lift just to try and settle the car a bit for the next corner. It's another corner. Every part of you says, nope, you can't do it. You're never going to make that corner. It's just, you sit on the limit so much if you want to take that corner flat out. I actually struggle with this next corner. This is one of the more annoying corners on the track, and the Radical, again, the back end is constantly wanting to step out. Now, of all the track cars, I've complained about this with a few various vehicles. The Ariel Atom V8s, the KTM Crossbow, the Formula E are some of the worst for having excellent turning but no rear end grip. The Radical is not quite as bad as them. It isn't as terrible. If you have to be very smooth with the Radical if you want to keep it all together and keep it all on the road. I may have just put a tiny bit of the wheel on the dirt. Again, I've managed to get away with it. Yeah, if you're very smooth with the Radical, you can kind of get away with it. This is a strange car to drive, though. Yeah, the oversteer in this car is a little bit weird. I'll give you a very quick explanation. Basically, the oversteer in this car is not to do with power. This has only got 460 horsepower. Yes, it doesn't weigh very much, but actually putting power down out of the corners isn't a problem. Sure, you know, you might get it sideways from time to time, but actual putting the power down is not what seems to cause this car to oversteer. For example, on this particular corner, I just turn in and the back end lets go. I'm trying to put power down to keep momentum going, so it's slid a bit more than I would have liked there. But what actually caused that slide to start with was not me using excessive throttle particularly. Basically, oversteer is caused by the back tyres, the rear tyres running out of grip before the front ones. Understeer is the front tyres letting go before the rear ones. So in an ACR Viper, when you push an ACR Viper over the limit that the tyres can manage, it's the front tyres that let go and you get a little bit of understeer. That's what I can deal with, that's what I'm used to dealing with, that's what I like with my racing cars. There are some cars, like the Honda NSX that I drove around here, the 99 ACR Viper, that when you push them to their absolute limit, of course, I'm trying to go as quickly around Nürburgring as I can, so I'm pushing all of these cars as hard as I dare, as hard as I can, trying to use all of the tyres up. So yeah, you will get to this limit. If you step over that line a little bit in the NSX, the back tyres will eventually let go and the car will start to slide. But it never slides very much. The NSX, the ACR Viper, or the older ACR Viper, yes, you could get them to oversteer, but I never really had a massive problem with them because it's a very gradual sort of going over the limit. When it comes to a car like a Formula E, you find the limit and you go a tiny bit over it and it goes massively sideways. Makes the Formula E a very difficult car to drive. McLaren P1 was a little bit funny in that at low speeds you could go over the limit and it would be a gradual thing. At high speeds you go over the limit and you have a humongous crash, which kind of makes a little bit of sense with McLaren P1. With the Radical, finding this limit is very strange. If you have a high speed corner, which there are quite a few around here, you can sort of you can find the limit, you can go over it a little bit and it'll be fine. You can find a low speed corner, you can go over the limit a little bit and it'll be all right. It's the length of the corner that seems to make a difference, which I've never had before in a car. For example, these corners around this part of the track, they're all sort of medium speed corners. Sometimes the car will grip, sometimes it won't. It seems to do with the length of time. For example, this is sort of a very long double apexed corner, which the car didn't really like. But you could take another corner that was perhaps faster, but a shorter corner, and the car was okay with it. I don't quite know how that one works. Maybe it's to do with the load on the tyres. So sort of the longer the corner, I guess you're loading the tyres more, and then it eventually gets to the point where it gives up. That's the only explanation I can really come up to as to why the Radical is a strange one. It's a strange one. It's a very difficult one to drive because you're never quite sure when the back end is going to give out. Like some corners are much faster and sort of like the same, not the same tightness, but you know there's some corners that it can deal with okay, and then there are other corners you think it should do and it doesn't. It's a really difficult bloody car to drive. It's very quick, do not get me wrong, it's still a very, very quick car, but it's a pain. It will take a while getting used to racing these vehicles. It does have more rear end grip than a lot of the track cars. Other downsides is not the quickest vehicle in a straight line. Tops out about 170 miles an hour down this back straight. It was never going to be hugely, you don't expect a Radical to be that fast in a straight line. It's all about the cornerings when it comes to a Radical. Absolutely flat out through this chicane. You don't brake until well after the second part, so you've got to try and get it slowed down for the final couple of corners. And then, yeah, I got the Radical around without there being a huge accident. It wasn't it was an eventful lap, shall we say. It wasn't the cleanest of laps, this particular one, with one humongous slide and one slight moment running across the curbs. But I made it. Just about. It's a scary car. Try to drive this around the Nurburgring. Anyway, my time with the Radical was a 6:45.461. So I went quicker. I went quicker than the target time, which is not surprising. It probably should be a little bit quicker, considering I do have slick tyres. But my God, is the Radical hard to drive. I mean, that lap was on the limit and over the limit in a couple of places. I know I lost some time with a big slide and a moment across the top of some curbs, but it was a lap that survived. It survived the entirety of the lap. I kept it together despite those little offs. It's a scary car to drive though. Give it a try. Scare yourself silly trying to keep this damn car under control around the Nurburgring. Anyway, that is it from me. I shall be putting up the onboard footage in a second after this. So if you want to watch me fight a Radical around the Nurburgring from the onboard perspective, you are more than welcome to. If not, then yeah, that's it from me. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.